Some of the geographical differences between the North and the South are that the North had a long, harsh winters and hot, humid summers. Some of the natural features were that the coastal lines had bays and harbors and many shipbuildings. The inlands had rocky soil and farming was hard. Some of the geographic differences for the South were that the climate was mild winters and long, hot, humid summers. Some of the natural features were that the coastal lines were swampy and marshland. And the towns followed the rivers inland.
Some of the political differences between the North and the South was the North reformed movements such as abolitionists to get more involved with politics. Growing population in the North allows the growth of political power in the North in Congress and presidential elections. The Republican Party begins to dominate Northern politics in the 1850s. They stick to the tradition of a strong central government rather than individual states' rights. Rising support for limited expansion of slavery. The South had strong believers in state rights. The fear that the North will move to abolish slavery supports popular support in a state or territory's decision to allow slavery. The Democratic Party is the main dominant party. Plantation class in control of the political power. Support for the state's ability to nullify federal laws.
The economic differences between the North and the South were that the North was much more developed in the terms of factory production. They had young females hired to work in the factories, but eventually immigration labor would replace the females. The working conditions were poor. They had long hours, low wages, and child labor. They were sometimes called wage slaves. Telegraph development made communication far easier. Northwest region had 82% of the production capability of the entire nation. The South was based off farming and plantation system. They used slave labor. They did not industrialize. The seaports made it easy to trade for the goods they needed. They did not have to produce them. Main products were exports, cotton from England, from the New England region and Britain. They had one iron factory.
Some of the cultural differences between the North and the South are in the Industrial Revolution, increases need for education society, starts tradition of public education.
Hold on!
Some of the cultural differences between the North and the South is the North has an industrial revolution which increases need for education in society, starts a tradition of public education, reform movements come out of it, new forms of entertainment for masses, growth of newspapers for the public. The South, the society is an agricultural society. The South has some fear of modernization. Cultural benefits center on slavery of African Americans, no strong tradition of public education.
Social differences between the North and the South are that the North allowed for more social between classes. The politicians, industrialists, and businessmen found themselves at the top. Large middle class of farmers, growth of industrial revolution led to higher numbers of middle class workers in cities. Poor farmers found themselves at the bottom of the social ladder. The South was far more stratified with distant lawyers. Wealthy plantation owners found themselves at the top of the social. Wealthy plantation owners owned the most of the slaves. Small-time white farmers owned some slaves, but not many. Lower-class white farmers owned no slaves. Slaves found themselves at the bottom of the social structure.
The transportation between the North and the South is the North had more roads extending west from the eastern cities to new states added to the Union. They had steamboats and clipper ships. The Erie Canal was built to connect the Great Lakes with the Hudson River to transport goods, and more than two-thirds of all railroads were in the North. The South relied more on natural waterways. Steamboats moved cash crops along the rivers of the South. They relied on smaller waterways that connected to the Mississippi, and less than one-third of the American railroads were the South.